Today we dig into the brutal Giallo of Darren Ward. British Giallo. And here we are, as if by magic. We are here with Darren Ward. And Darren, first off, thank you so much for doing this. And how does it feel to have seen your work brought together in Gialli, Guns and Gore, available now?
Wow. Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for having me on the podcast tonight, Matt. It's always great to be able to sort of, get asked on to talk about your movies. But no, the box set, it's amazing. As an indie filmmaker, when you first start off, as well, like I did 35 years ago, you start making things for fun. You never in your wildest dreams think, years later, even when you did your first feature film, you just don't think 30 odd years later it's still getting re-released, it's out there. And as an independent film director, to actually have a box set of your work, to me it's the biggest accolade in terms of, they're remastered. Not that a couple of them are that old, they're not. It's just the early ones, give them a bit of a pimped them up a little bit. But no, it's just fantastic. And as I was saying to you off air earlier, when I first went up to Treasured Films to go and sign a lot of postcards and posters and stuff for pre-orders, when Graham Lloyd and Tom Lee Rutter sort of said, "There you go, dude," it's like, wow, this is my life's work. To date, 35 years of my work as a film director on free Blu-rays. But what a lovely set. We all wanted to make sure it was packed to the rafters with extras, and not just any old interesting stuff, the behind the scenes where you can see how some of the effects and some of the other stuff is together. Yeah, there's a lot of people having fun on set, and it's great to capture candid moments of people like Dan Van Heusen and Giovanni Lombardo Adichie fooling around on set and stuff, But no, the guys have done a great job, and I'm absolutely made up with it. Very, very proud.
Yeah, it's one of those box sets where, like you say, there's so much on there to dig into. I'm holding it in my hand now, but I really do appreciate things like the signed postcards, the booklet, but the behind the scenes gives you a real understanding of that group of friends, the fun element of stuff. When particularly when you're making films that I would say are, I was trying to think of adjectives to describe them, like bold, sort of. There's some things in there that are like very brave choices from the off that, you go, oh, wow, that's pretty explosive. There's, explosive would be another adjective I'd use. And, but the behind the scenes shows, the artistry, the friendship, the fun, all the things that, if you watch the films, you think everybody hated each other because they're so
it's so violent, right?
yeah.
But no, it's one of the things that I like to think that I bring to any set when I'm directing is, it's hard work, but you got to have fun, right? Because no one's getting paid. The money for these movies, for that trilogy, they're all on the screen because, one of the biggest problems you have as an independent is how do you match the big movies? How do you try and get as many people onto your little, we're very, very tiny microorganisms in the sea of the film industry, if you like that analogy. So, so when you come, especially when I come to, with Sudden Fury, if you start with Sudden Fury, I grew up on, I'm a 70s child, so I grew up with the video boom, the home video nasties. I saw a lot of movies I shouldn't have done at an early age and fell in love with special effects. Could clearly see it's not real. It's zombies, it's this, it's that. But I always wanted to be an effects artist. But anyway, that's another story. But so in Love and Italian, once I found Dario Argento when I was about 12, 13, something like that. Suspiria, Tenebrae, and that you know, that just opened up a whole different world. And then you got your Fulcis and your Diodatos and, you know, Sergio Martino and Umberto Lenzi. They're the Italian directors that really got my blood pumping for, you know, for cinema and movies at an early age. And obviously as a teenager, and you hunt down uncut copies of this and that. That was quite good fun in the 90s, trying to get stuff where you didn't have Blu-ray. You're still on like 8th generation VHS watching something. But, but no, so my passion is to take my love for all the ingredients. And there's a lot of American counterpart directors that I love, like, you know, Peckinpah, The Squib, Sam Peckinpah, Brian De Palma, Scorsese, you know. So when and also at the time, when we started Sudden Fury in '95, we started shooting in April '95, but I'd made a short movie called Bitter Vengeance with 3 of the same characters the year before. And we entered some competition, and the judges said, well, we'd love to see how this short movie would, you know, where the characters would grow in a feature. So I always knew I wanted to throw the kitchen sink at it. So, you know, luckily a very good friend of mine, Alistair Vardy, was trying to get into the special effects side of the film industry. So he was always trying to, oh, well, I've got this explosion, I've got these bullet hits, we got this, we got that. So we'd spend weekends, a group of us, before we made these other movies, just blowing things up, seeing, you know, making little 5-10 minute gangster skits of us all running around ourselves, getting squibbed and vans blowing up literally. And unfortunately, none of that stuff is available to see. But we had a whale of a time. So I kind of had it all in me. So when it come to writing Sudden Fury, my own movies, well, what am I going to do? My love for Italian cinema, my love for John Woo and the whole heroic bloodshed, you know, the Chow Yun-fat, the Better Tomorrow movies, The Killer. I was obsessed and in love with all of it. So with Sudden Fury, it's a real, not mismatch, it's a mix-up of everything I loved. And it's like, right, I'm going to break every boundary. I hate censorship. I'm just going to try and break this taboo. I'm going to try and throw this on the screen. And I wouldn't have been able to do none of it without some key people. Alistair Vardy's been with me from the start all the way through to now. You know, Lock, Stock, Die Hard, Game of Thrones. You know, the guy's done massive stuff. But you know, so going back to what you're saying in a very, very, very long-winded way. Yeah, I've got a great core crew and cast that have come along with me over this journey of 35 years. You know, and when we started, we were in our early 20s. Sudden Fury, I was 22 to 25 making that. Right. And then we're in our 30s, Day of Violence. And then I was in my 40s with Beyond Fury. And of course, people get married and move countries, but we stay in touch. And you've got to have fun with it. And, you know, and the beauty of it is they come back still, so they must be having fun as well, right? So on of each movie, and as technology's gone on, you want your movies to look bigger and better. So with each movie, as you go through that box set, even before Sudden Fury, with the shorts, they were shot on VHS. I had a VHS camera, in went the VHS tape, Panasonic M7. We shot and edited Bitter Vengeance, Peor Il Diavolo, and Blue Fear as we're kind of like shooting it, most of it, and then crash edited between 2 VHS, you know, machines. That's how I used to do it. But yeah, anyway, I'll shut up because I'll go on all day. I'm interviewing you, and you know, I want to hear. It's interesting you mention your influences, because I think when you talk about that, there is a love of film that comes through that people might go, oh well, no, if there's, you know, just lots of shooting and blah blah blah, but actually, when you think about that, what you've got, you mentioned the John Woo style film, you mentioned Giallo, you mentioned American action, you know, the Peckinpah, all 3 of those, but then through the lens of Britain and your kind of life experience.
you definitely see that on the screen in a way that maybe some of those other things that you could just write off, and I'm not being negative in this sense, but like someone like, say, like GBH or Cliff Tremlow wanted to be a movie star. He wanted to make movies. He didn't necessarily love movies. He just thought this is a way of making money. Like, whereas with you, it's the love of the film, it's those films in general.
Very, very much so. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't be able to do it because they take so long to do. I work full time, kids, mortgage, get the violin out. But, I've worked full time for the last 34 years as an IT technician. So by day, that's what I do. So, and now as I say, as we got older, some of the guys, I'm now just hit 53 last week. Some of them are sort of like almost hitting the 60, and it's like, wow, where's the time gone? But it's such an exhaustive process because for all three of those of the trilogy, the crime trilogy, I only shot when I could on long weekends, like a Friday to a Sunday. Sometimes we were lucky, Friday to a Monday. Everyone's got a day job. On Beyond Fury, Alistair and the effects guys were in Ireland for 3 years on the last season of Game of Thrones. I had to do 95% of all the pyros in Beyond Fury myself. I hadn't done it for 20 odd years, but I got all the materials I needed sent to me, and so that club sequence with the AK-47, there was like 50, 60 bullet hits going off there. Squibs. That's me. I'm setting it all up. So I write, I produce, I direct. But like and I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, any other indie director will say, you wear about 80 caps because you write, you produce, you direct. I do the pickups from hotels and in airports. I do the catering. I do everything because I don't have the money to pay people, and who's going to do it better than you, right? So, and with working, I don't have the luxury. But so when you do this, you do that, I'll be forever. Is it getting done? That's the only way I've known to do it, is do it all myself, and that's not taking away from John Raggett, my DOP of the last 4 movies. John's fantastic, and as I say, Alistair and Dave Andrews that scored my last 3 movies, and Nick Rendell. How can we forget Nick? That I've done 6 movies with, in lead role in 6 movies. Without those guys, especially without Nick and Al, all this is a pipe dream. I could have wrote the scripts, but those guys filled the space, and they've come along for the ride. And people said over the years, with the movies jumping up and slightly bigger budgets, but none of them are over 50,000. They're all under £50,000. You could have bought another. No, I stuck with Nick. Nick is part and parcel of the journey, because I feel he as an actor and me as a director, we progressed and came on together. And Nick's not an actor; he was a psychologist, and now he does something else. And it probably showed in the early movies. He'd never had any acting classes. It was Sudden Fury was, as you say, get your mates together, let's make a movie. But suddenly, I met David Warbeck at a film festival in 1996 up in London, in Hampstead, and it changed the destiny of what is that box set, I guess, because it would only have gone out of the other movies between 20 mates and a laugh down the pub. But we got Warbeck. I had the audacity to go over to him and just say, look, I've written this role for you in this movie I'm making, and your character's called Pike, and I'd like you to be part of the movie. And he was signing stuff at the time, and he just looked at me and gave me his address and said, come see me next week. So luckily we'd been shooting for a year. So I had a few sequences, some tasty sequences from Sudden Fury, like the end, the full kind of like flashback of the whole jungle sort of, when everything's blowing up, and everything blew up for real. We blew up Hastings Woods. Those explosions were massive, and the ground rocked. And the army come up, because we were right by one of the army camps. We didn't know. We were in like 900 acres of woodland that a friend of ours owned. I was like, yeah, you go ahead, blow shit up if you want. Yeah, do this, do that. So off we went, and we did. And next thing you know, helicopters are up because I think there's like terrorist attack going on. And this, honestly, honest truth, this is mid-90s. So I was able to show Warbeck that, and he loved what we'd done. He understood there was no money. Did the movie for free. I was just made up, because one of my favourite directors of that time, and still is, and I'm obsessed, is Sergio Leone. People say, and it sounds like cliched and pretentious. I don't mean it if it comes across like this. But people say, "Oh, film school and stuff." No, I didn't do film school. Well, I just learned what I've done by watching 1,000 movies. But if you watch any Sergio Leone movie, it's a masterclass on how you make a movie. It teaches you about sound. It teaches you about composition. It teaches you about the actual movement of the camera, along with the Italian movies of Argento and Fulci. And it's why my movies get related to Fulci sometimes with the gore. Is I like to, especially after Sudden Fury, because Sudden Fury is quite, the violence is over the top. The squibs is like a gallon coming out, and there weren't hose pipes in them days. It was proper, just a squib going off. But we had these almighty bloody things. And the Leone movie, it teaches you everything, editing, everything, and many other movies. And with Fulci, Fulci really taught me how to shoot the hyper realistic kind of like gore. And you know what, it looks great when it's all on a dolly or a slider or whatever, but when you take it off that and suddenly you're handheld and you're up there and you're in there and you just lingering, and you want the people, your audience, to feel, or I do in certain cases, to feel a little bit, oh god, because part of me, that teenager part of me, still feels, oh god, I've got to push the envelope. And I've made my movies so violent that each time I do another one, it's like, oh my god, how am I going to top it? People are going to think I've lost it if I don't turn something, And don't get me wrong, I'm not doing it for the sake of it. I love doing it. The last 3 or 4 years, I've been helping some directors in Portsmouth, and I've just been doing special effects and blood work for them. And every time they call me, they're great guys, and I love going down there just throwing the blood around. It's very cathartic.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you mention about the kind of the love of it, and the just the actual doing of it being the creative outlet that you need and that you get. Because I was thinking about, like, casting is so interesting, because you mentioned David Warbeck, you mentioned Giovanni Ribisi, but none of those I would class as stunt casting, because stunt casting would be like, I get a celebrity or I get a name, but these are people where not everybody knows who they are. You have to know the films that they're in, and you have to love the films that they're in to even kind of reach out to them. So, like, for example, The House on the Edge of the Park is one where you see that film and you think, it makes me feel really uncomfortable. A lot of those films are about being uncomfortable, and it's definitely your wheelhouse, because there's parts of your films that because they see it, they feel so up close and personal, they feel very uncomfortable. I
mean, it was a personal thing. Obviously, David was by chance. We happened to be at the same festival, and if I hadn't met him there, he wouldn't have been in the movie. Simple as that. He was a lovely guy. I could spend hours telling you stories about him. Sort of like 18 months or so I got to know him, but so when it came to A Day of Violence, and I thought, right, here we go, we've got to get another feature, going. And David was no longer with us. I really wanted to carry that on. He brought so much to the movie, and we finished Sudden Fury because we got Warbeck. Somehow it got out that Warbeck was in the movie, and the next thing, I'm doing a couple of interviews for German horror magazines of the 90s, like Doom magazine, and I can't remember the other one. And I'm sending, and it says pictures of Warbeck, and then I said, look, we're looking for money to finish the movie, the whole end sequence of Sudden Fury, that whole kind of half an hour balls to the wall shootout and anything goes. We hadn't shot that. And on the basis of Warbeck being in the movie, I had it was a fax back in those days. I got a fax from a German company, Incredibly Strange Video, said, look, we'll put the money in. So that's what happened. We finished the movie. So, you know, and I never, as I said to you at the beginning, I never thought the movie would be out like it was. You know, I had a cast and crew show in Southampton. Next thing, it's in Stuttgart for its world premiere, because the Germans put the rest of the money in. So we all got flown over. It was lovely. And then it went round the world. It Sitges, and, you know, it just kept going, and it still keeps going now in its own small way. It's never been out in Italy until like 2021. Italy released the whole trilogy, and the first time any of my movies have been over in Italy. But, you know, it's like on its third UK release. It's on its like fifth US release. It's in Taiwan, you know, Germany, Austria, Spain, France. It's in all the major territories, and it's a 15.5 grand movie that I shot 30 years ago. Next year will be 30 years since we, you know, the shoot.
It's such a victory. It's such a victory for independent film to get the film seen in so many places, and like you say, you know, I imagine especially a thrill for you to have it released in Italy. You know,
yeah, because it's the motherland of it's my home away from home. You know, it's where all the Gore masters come from, and those guys mean nothing to them, but for me, for it to be in a box set in the UK, to have it out in all the other places is great, but Italy was key for me, and it was so good that Giovanni was still with us at the time. He did a little thing for Spasmo Video to introduce the trilogy for the Italian fans. And it's great. And going back to your question, yeah, I wanted to find someone, and I stumbled across it. Excuse me. It was MySpace back in the day, back in the early 2005, 2006, before Facebook had really kicked off. Yeah. And I just stumbled across this MySpace page going, Giovanni Lombardo Radici, aka John Morgan. And I just hit email, and I said, oh, is this really you? I'm Darren Ward. I've done this movie a couple of years ago, because we're now in the mid-2000s, and Sudden Fury came out in 98. I'd love for you to be, you know, read this part. I'd worked with Warbeck. I know they'd worked together on Antonio Margheriti's Space Island, Treasure Island. So I didn't expect to hear anything. I thought it was a fan thing. The same night, he got back to me. No, this is really me. Please send me the script. So I sent him the script. He got back saying, you know, he was crying by the end of it. This is the script for A Day of Violence, and he really wanted to play the character of Boswell, the main bad guy. But we, at the time, we didn't have any money as usual. And I said, I can't keep flying you back and forth from Rome. Any chance I can get you in for an extended cameo? So we picked the drug dealer of Hopper. So we had him over for 4 days to do that. And I said, next time, well, I'll get you in big. And that's what I did. I had him in as the main villain in Beyond Fury, and he came over quite a few times. But no, Giovanni, brilliant. Him and David, just so in awe that these movies that they did decades ago are still in, you know, fans all around the world, and, you know, in some cases people are making a living just from the conventions. I feel humbled in my own way. It's almost like full circle. You know, 29 years ago, I'm still shooting Sudden Fury, right? And I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with this? And then it went out, and then we do another. And the reason there's so many years in between, they take so long to do. Then it's a couple of years on the festival circuit, and I try and go and introduce where I can, where I'm invited. Because I think it's important to meet people and be there for your movie if you can. And then I got to write something else, and then I got to get the ball rolling, and I got to go, right, boys, here we go again. And then I got to cast. The years go by. I'm not getting any younger, you know. If my only negative thing on this, and it's fantastic, you know, but oh man, it's just a shame that, you know, it's not come through yet, that we've been able to sort of jump up the ladder to a really, you know, even if you're talking like $500,000, 250 grand, $500,000, because what I can do, or I think what we turn in for under 50 grand, I think you know, sort of ask anyone to sort of belie the costs of that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I think that's the downside of the British film industry, in the sense of you often get films that come out that are yours that people attach themselves to and hold on to, and do you remember this from the. But what happened, that the film industry itself, you're doing that despite the film industry, unless you're making a Merchant Ivory film or something that's going to, that's like bait for winning a BAFTA or something. It's not, you're not got those avenues with those, or even the independent financiers like they have in America. And
oh no, not like that at all.
I guess that's the frustration. But in the same way as like a film like Host, or a film like Beyond Fury, Sudden Fury, where you're kind, you're working to your limitations, and you end up making something that might have been, that's probably people connect with more than if it was a big budget Marvel film, if you know what I mean.
Because you got buckets of blood, sweat and tears on each one of those features, I can guarantee you. But Beyond Fury almost killed me. That was a bit of an exaggeration, but it took a toll. And it was because we were like 4 years shooting, 18 months in post, COVID hit. The 2020 premiere went down to Swanee. But it was just a long, arduous process. And it was my biggest movie, because each movie I wanted to get bigger. There's no point treading water. And even if my budgets haven't got bigger, there's, I'm going to bloody do something about it, so it actually looks like everything is like tripled. You look at Beyond Fury, and then you look at A Day of Violence, you'd think Beyond Fury was double, triple the cost of A Day of Violence, right? I mean, it shot in 2.5K on 70 prime lenses in RAW. It absolutely pops. But no, it's the same budget. It's about $2,000 in it. I think, it's about $2,000.
Wow.
And it's the dedication of the cast, of my cast and crew. And everything else, is planned. And the only beauty of shooting these movies over a period of time, because I got to try and get all these guys from around the country, and sometimes from different countries, to all gather for a weekend in sunny Southampton to shoot scenes, because we don't have money to say, chapesses, jack your jobs in or whatever, take a week off, you're going to get paid. Let's just come down and shoot in a solid block for 4 weeks, whatever. It's just until that is, until those sort of budgets come in, if they ever come in, there's just no other way around it. And I'm not a fan of the Kickstarters and Indiegogos. Yes, I did a couple on Beyond Fury, and yes, it did bring in some money for the movie, which is great. But they're soul destroying. Every day you're begging the same people on your social media feed, give me money. People tune out, even your best mates. Suddenly, it's like a western with just the tumbleweed going down through the.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're right. Sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking. I agree.
You get people that put in. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not dissing people for not putting in. It's just the fact when it actually comes down to it, that's the downside of it. So I would never do one of those again. But all the other movies, none of the movies have been made solely on campaigns. They've just been private investments, and self investment. But over to you.
No, that's a really interesting point, because I think when it comes to the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter, and we've all supported them, but then also sometimes there's a fine line between hustle and then getting an email every single day that you, like you say, you tune out.
Like when it starts out like anything, it's new, it's different. But like 10 years on from when I did one, there's hundreds every day, and people get sick and tired of go fund me this, do that. It's like, and I feel rightly or wrongly, 35 years of making movies, I should find it a little bit easier, maybe, to get budgets. But that's just my only, my one little gripe I go back to. I find it very hard to get the budgets to make these movies, you know. But at the moment, and I will say a little bit of a inside gossip. The last year, I've got a few scripts actually that I'm trying to get off the ground. The last year, I've been working on a female lead, my first female lead, because all my movies have been very testosterone, you know, like bald-headed blokes killing blokes.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
So I thought, you know, we'll go for a female lead. It is very, very violent, but it's very different. And we do have a producer on board. It is greenlit for $3 million, which is £2.2 million. But for the last year, it's doing the rounds trying to get a leading lady. We've got to get a leading lady that brings in a certain amount of money before we can start production. So I've been chewing my knuckles because I can't really talk about it. What I said now is probably too much, but I'm in that mood to distill a bit now. So that's going on. I've got a script. I loved doing Passion. Is a short giallo that I shot in the end of 2025. It started 2025. It was shot as part of an anthology called Exhibition of Evil, coming out from Trash Art Films, guys based in Portsmouth, and it's 6 stories, 6 different directors. So they asked me to direct a sequence. Now, I hadn't directed anything since Beyond Fury, and we wrapped on that in 2018. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I chose to do Giallo, you know, Giallo films, but I'd never really done a proper Giallo. So let's do Giallo. So I had great fun with that. And, you know, I just wanted it to pop. We shot it in 2.5, in 4K, actually shot in 4K. Same lenses as Beyond Fury. Just wanted it to look all those kind of tropes of the black glove killer and the sound design. There's hardly any dialogue. It's only 13 minutes, but I did. The guy said, I said I'd like to do festival runs with this separate to the anthology. So it did a lot of worldwide festivals in 25, and that's on the box set as well. So you're right up to date with what I've done.
Yeah, it's such a journey through your career, isn't it? The box set.
Yeah, but another sneak peek, another little bit of insight. I'm also I'm writing another Fury script as well. So I'm writing Raging Fury. So there is a way of getting Walker back. It's already written. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, yeah. So maybe out of all of them, because of the you know, I guess the trilogy, and I'm known for the trilogy outside of anything else. If I present a fourth, you know, Walker movie or fourth part of my gangster quadrilogy, I guess. Maybe we'll be doing that. So yeah, I'm sort of raring to go. The fire burns, you know. I still just want to get on in 2 movies, but I can't because there's no money.
Well, we'll have to have a chat about that when that's up and running as well. Just come on and talk about the quadrilogy, the fourth in the.
Absolutely. You can come down on set. You can come down on set and shoot, can't you?
Man, I would. Do you know what I would love to now? And
you'd have to come down and stay tonight, have an on-set day.
Yeah. I'll just be in a car somewhere asleep, and then it'll just explode. And was he sleeping in that? Oh no!
Yeah, sorry, Matt. I forgot to tell you when you were sleeping. Mate, we put 16 squibs on you.
No, but thank you. I'd love to. It'd be great.
Yeah. Whenever it kicks off, like there's the.
Do you know? I was going to say the Willy chopping. I'm still getting over it. Yeah.
Not fair, if it's not a family-friendly podcast moment.
Nah, none of mine. Don't worry.
There's all sorts of stuff here. I've got like there's Giovanni's silicone neck prosthetic from the Day of Violence. His neck slit. That's what's left of that.
There we go. Wow. They're 2 very, very memorable, shall we say, moments from the films. And I was going to ask you a little bit about that, really. You know, have you ever had any pushback or anybody go, oh, that's too far, or it's too, you know, like, have you had people who have come out and really been quite quite
pretty much.
aggressively.
Yeah. Pretty much we had walkouts on every festival that I attended in person for a day of violence. We had walkouts in Edinburgh. We had walkouts at Fantasporto in Portugal. We had walkouts at the actual cock chopping scene. People didn't like that at all. And in fact, this couple walked out in Edinburgh and then verbally attacked Nick at the bar, saying it was disgusting and the movie was an excuse to show violence. And he quite rightly said, yeah, but you walked out within 20 minutes, didn't you? You didn't see, okay, it's violent. It's called a day of violence. You think you're going to see Bambi. You're at an exploitation film festival called Fabfest. What are you expecting to see? But they really didn't like it. And they sent a complaint to the Scottish Film Board, who then emailed me 2 days after I got back and said, could you please answer this and just say, defend your movie? And I said exactly what I said to you. I said, you're having a laugh, aren't you? It's at an exploitation film festival. The film's called A Day of Violence, and they're moaning because it's violent. My characters and my universes are in that sort of urban decay. It's just a dank place, I love all kinds of movies, but when I write my movies, it's got to be interesting and, visually interesting. And so that's why you're going to get this like kind of decaying world. But with Beyond Fury, you notice all the exterior shots, a lovely Hollywood sunshine, there's pure blue skies. Everything pops. I just wanted it. I wanted it Beyond Fury to be, I know it sounds, again, pretentious, but it's just, I wanted it to be my Once Upon a Time in America out of my trilogy. I wanted it to be bigger, more layers of the onion for the characters. It's the longest movie. It's the most violent movie. It's the best looking movie. It's got more, it just looks so slick and with the light design and everything as well. We really went out. Because, as I've said right at the beginning, every time you make a movie, you're up against everyone else making a movie for more money. Even if they're independent people, there's people making independent movies with much more money than me. But what I want to do, I'll never make that merchandising movie because they're not the movies I personally want to direct. I want to make movies that get. I used to like watching. I still like watching. I still like watching comedies as well. But I still love a great bit of grittiness. So I'll never soften with that. Walkouts, and also with Beyond Fury, I won't mention the distributor's name, but there's one UK distributor that was following the making of Beyond Fury because I've been released with them before on another title, and I went up to meet them and I showed them a 6-minute promo cut of Beyond Fury. Now it had a lot of all the feet smashing scenes in and other bits in it, and basically I got we'll come back when it's all finished and we'll talk again, but literally got an email over my dead body. Is that coming out on our label? Because it's too violent. That is what it is.
A badge of honour though, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a badge of honour, I think.
As a film director, you can be precious about it, but at the end of the day, when you've shot it, and as I edit my own stuff under a pseudonym of Mirage, I've just got my own edit. I edit my own movies since A Day of Violence. It's no cost to me. You want something chopped just so I get a release. I'm beyond the caring. You're gonna have 2 seconds chopped out of it. Pay me, have it. It's the fans you're doing a disservice to because it shouldn't be cut, right? So now I just start, but I decided, where's Sudden Fury and Day of Violence? I went to places like Cannes and got a worldwide sales agent. They went around the world to film markets and sold those movies. Beyond Fury, I wanted to cut out the middleman. Just COVID hit and it just took a little bit longer to get it out there. But, I just wanted to go back to the people that I'd been dealing with over the last decade or so and hit them directly and see if I can just, get more money coming in and stuff like that. When I was doing it in the 90s, before we did Sudden Fury, literally when I made it in 92, and they're on that box set, you know, I didn't know anyone else, probably because of social media and, you know, not having that worldwide sort of aspect on it all. But now everyone makes movies. You make a movie with your iPhone. You know, Danny Boyle with his 28 years later, you know, the first part was shot on an iPhone, was it 14 or 15 with, you know, film lenses, etc. So, you know, technology's moved on so much and everyone's sort of doing it. I just kind of try and stick to what I want to do. And I just feel so blessed that over the years, you know, we've got fans from different countries, and it's really nice to get the emails or the messages that pop up and just say, oh, I really loved your movies, or again, I feel in full circle. I feel like an old git now, that when people say to me, I actually saw Sun Fury back in the day, and that what made me want to make movies. And some of them are film directors, and I think, well, you know, honestly, it's lovely to feel that people come up and say that to me. And if I had the chance, I would have said that directly to every one of those Italian film directors. Because of you, I'm making movies, not because of anything else. If I hadn't just found those movies and just thought, well, this is bloody great, I don't know what I'd be doing.
No, I mean that it's so funny because there's so many questions that I had and you know, about in terms of, you know, drive to make movies, drive to make more movies, and distribution and things like that, and you've answered them all so well because of the passion that you have for the projects. It's very easy to kind of explain where you're coming from. I'm really interested.
I'd love to be doing it tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's like, it's such a you can tell the difference between a passion project and a cash grab or a quick. I was in a film that I did just film something remotely for, and it was one of these ones, like a Kickstarter. And when I watched it, I was halfway through a word and they'd cut my scene, and like, it was so put together, like, let's just make the next one part 14 of this. There's a real difference between it, and it's almost unwatchable. And not even like a fun bad movie, but just a bad movie. And I think that sometimes when, you know, like you're saying, you go to what you do and what you do well. If you suddenly started just tossing off some films on an iPhone, then that wouldn't be a Darren Ward film.
No, it wouldn't. No, you're quite right. It wouldn't. Every film that I've made has been 2,000% passion. I want to make it. I live those movies years before I shoot them because I've written them, right? So I've never had storyboards. I have a shot list that I have, but everything is edited years before I shoot anything in my head, because once I write something, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm like a bull to a red rag, and every moment of the day, I'm thinking about it. Last thing at night, I'm thinking about it. I'm editing the shots. I'm pacing the shots. So I know it sounds, again, I keep saying pretentious, but honestly, when I get on set and I'm shooting my scenes and my movies, it's all done. It's all done, and it's just and we just get on and do it. So whether I got some sort of, it's not a special knack. It's just how I approach it, you know. But I lived with them for so long, and they mean so much. And the beauty of shooting over a period of time, years, like Day of Violence took 18 months. Sudden Fury was 2 years. Beyond Fury was 4 years shooting, but, you know, that kind of 5.5 before it was out. The only good thing I can say to anyone that struggles along or thinks, oh my God, you know, if you're going to do it over a period of time, the benefits you get are you have time with the scenes that you have shot. You can edit them to precision, right? You can plan so much for your next shoot, because if you're shooting for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks solid, it's bam, 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 bam. I shoot one weekend. I edit the scene. I look at it. We do test grades. What works. I've never had to go back and do reshoots on any movie, actually. So I'm not going to say I look at it for reshoots. I don't. I just make sure it's there. Then I might have a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the next planned shoot. So I got that scene. I can get everything nailed down on a one-man band by it being over a period of time, because I have time to recover from an intensive weekend shoot. I get it edited. What do I need for the next one? What do I need? What props? What costumes? What location? Who needs to fly in? Who's coming? Who's available? Who's out of the country? All of that. So it does allow me. It gives me a bit of an edge that each scene I've shot has had 2,000% given to it. Not like I start on week one with 2,000% and it peters off because I'm knackered. Second week, I'm not sleeping. You're not eating properly. You're stressed. Things aren't going right because you haven't got time for anything that really goes wrong. Do it long-winded. Every eventuality you can actually tackle. That's the only good side.
That's an interesting point, though, that maybe a lot of independent filmmakers don't do it that way, and that's, you know, that is a very specific way of doing it.
Because when you start shooting, we don't shoot to any sort of SAG rules. If we're there for 18 hours or 20 hours, we're there for 18 or 20 hours. If we're there for 10 hours, we're there for 10 hours. No one moans, no one complains. This is what we're shooting. How long it's going to be? Well, we're going to start here. We're going to aim for this, but we got the place for this time. If it goes over or whatever, you just make sure you're covered. And there's one thing that David Warbeck told me on set of Sudden Fury was Joan Crawford said to him when they were shooting Trog, they were going to be doing some scene in the cemetery, if I remember rightly, and it started to rain. They hadn't planned for it. The whole thing was in chaos because they couldn't shoot for the day and blah, blah, blah. When he started doing Italian movies, they had a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. It's improvisation. And the term that Joan Crawford said to David, and what he said to me, and I've never forgotten, is turn shit into gold, darling. In a shit situation, turn it into gold. Don't panic. Have your B set up. And I'm not saying you've got to have a plan B, C, D, because your brain would be fried. But it is, when you're doing it indie, you've got to allow for the things that you can't tackle by slipping someone some extra money so you can stay there a bit later and buying this and buying that. You know, I'd say other little tricks, like when we were shooting Sudden Fury and we didn't have the kit that we got now, you know, we would do the Mario Bava stuff. We didn't have Steadicam, we didn't have tracks, so we managed to get an old broken wheelchair, fixed the wheels, sat in the wheelchair, someone wheeled us round, and that's how we got the dolly shots around the legs getting hit with the baseball bats and things like that. Other shots, we had big warehouses, no Steadicam, no dollies, so tracking shots, 2 miles an hour leaning out the side of a car that's crawling along so slow, but on camera you just got to, it's just using what's there and just making it work, you know, because you don't have millions of pounds, you don't have tens of thousands of pounds. You got to make every penny look like 10 grand on the screen, because that's how I approach it anyway.
Oh, totally. Now, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you, if it's okay with you, a series of quick fire questions. Some of them might seem a bit flippant or silly, but they're all related to the Darren Ward universe, okay?
Cool.
All right. So my first one is, if you were to come up with a drinking game based upon recurring things in your film, so in any of your films or all of them, what would it be? So I'll give you mine to start with. So mine would be in the first film, certainly, or in Sudden Fury, should I say. Anytime anyone says cocksucker in that film, you take a shot. Okay, because I think that might be the most amount of use of the word cocksucker in any film I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of films. So
yeah, you know what? It's quite funny on Letterboxd, you know, the online social thing. You get people feedback. This film has got its faults clearly. That most of the people can't act. It's overlong, too much dialogue, but the action still holds up, right? But they all say, fucking hell, the amount of swearing, if you did a drinking game like bloody with Nail and I, you'd be absolutely paralytically dead. So, yeah, but other themes in my movies, the other themes is, and again, it wasn't something that I've consciously thought about, but someone said to me, all your features, feature a moment where one of the main characters is tied down, helpless, tortured. You've got the feet smashing sequence and Beyond Fury. You got Walker you got Mitchell hung up on a day of violence. You got the guy strapped to a chair again in Sudden Fury, where they're hitting him with bats and stabbing him and shooting him, and I don't know. And I guess the answer I gave was, I guess on a subconscious level, I don't know. It's like, what's terrifying is having tied, trapped. You can't do anything where these
restriction
people around you are going to do what they're going to. The terror, the fear of it. And I don't know. It's not something I don't know where, but they've managed to come into each of those 3 features, and it's quite an interesting thing, because I never thought, right, I've got to do another scene where someone is tied helplessly to something with someone else around them. But there they are, and so that's a trend. That's a trend.
That's one I was going to mention as well, because I worked as a butcher, and honestly, I've never seen so many people. It's like a sight, like when I go into the fridge and the meat's hung up like this. I'm like, I've seen probably it just took me back to being in the butchers, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a harsh movie. A Day of Violence is a very harsh movie. It's it's very hyper realistic. The effects, what I mean by that day and beyond, the effects are so hyper realistic that I just wanted you to cringe. Whether you're a massive Gore fan like me, or you're so jaded because I grew up on video nasties that a lot of the stuff you just say, oh God, I've seen it all. It takes a lot for me to go, oh. But I still, well, what can I do? Because maybe not so many people have seen all those movies I did. New generations of, of film lovers, the 70s people, maybe. But you got, anyway. So, I just love.
Do you have to, sorry. Do you have to sometimes be mindful of the fact that people don't have the same sensibilities as you? Or have you always been surrounded by people on set who are like, that's fine, stab me in the belly, or whatever it is, or in the case of certain actors who maybe are new to it, and everybody else is already in the bubble and goes, oh, it's fine, we do this all the time?
There's been a bit of both. I mean, the guys that have been around since the beginning, I mean, they don't even bat their eyes, like, oh God, how are we killing so and so this time? It's a bit of a joke. It's like, oh my, how can we top it each time? But I've had actors, like when we worked with Jeff Stewart in Beyond Fury, he played Reg Hollis in The Bill for 20 odd years.
A bit of a smash in the face.
He's never had anything done like that to him. So he's on the floor and he's got blood tubing going through his hair, got the machete piece on, the machete in it, blood tubing everywhere. And he's laying on the floor, and there's blood squirting out. I said, Jeff, where's the blood going to go, Darren? Everywhere, Jeff. Is it? I don't know. Mate, you're on the floor. You've got a machete in your face. There's blood going to be pissing out everywhere. It's going to go in your eyes. It's going to go everywhere. And, okay. He's on the floor, the first take. Oh, my God. We absolutely waterboarded him with blood. And he's coughing and splattering. And I'm like, Jeff, you're going to be fucking dead. Lay back down. He's like, oh. But no, he was absolutely brilliant, though. But like Giovanni was obviously, he'd done Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Apocalypse, and, House on the Edge of the Park and everything else. To him, it was, this is great. He loved it. No, we just have a whale of a fun, and it's always like with Nick and some of the other guys, like John, the cameraman, and Al. It's like, what are you gonna fucking write? What are you gonna write this time? It's like, I don't know yet, but obviously I've got to now top the chainsaw scene. I've now got to top the feet getting smashed up. I mean, oh God, some of the stuff I'm writing in Rage and Fury, and I'm only eight pages in, but all my movies. Here's another trend for you. And I think all my movies open with a bang before the credits. Oh yeah, okay, apart from Beyond, but the others, you'll get a sequence, you'll get a set piece.
Kind of starts
Then you get the credits. But with Beyond, I wanted to kick it off. That you dragged in, kick it in, screaming from the opening second with that. It's like a homage to the 70s. How I saw it, I wanted a kind of a homage to the old 70s spaghetti westerns, where you had a lot of photos and stuff going on. Now, on that opening sequence of Beyond Fury, the credit sequence, if you go frame by frame on every single one of the main character photos you get up, you'll see their character's backstory in photos flicking on the screen.
Yes.
You'll see redacted military records for the army guys. There's all sorts of stuff that we've hidden as little Easter eggs in the credit sequence. So go through it frame by frame, and each character's got 24 photos that represent their backstory.
Oh, wow.
You'll see them.
I did notice, though, obviously, the titles are very different, aren't they? Because, there is an evolution of the way that things are presented. Speaking of how things started, I'm interested in the when we've got one of the films, and obviously starts with an extended sex scene. What was the thinking behind that? Because that's quite a departure from starting with a like a real violent shooting or stabbing or whatever.
Well, originally in the script, that sex scene was right at the end. Now, the scene in A Day of Violence where Mitchell is on the rooftop with his ex-wife Abby, and he's like, "I've got this money," and he's giving her the bag of the money. When you see that flashback of why he's done it, like the car smashing into his car and his stepdaughter, being in a coma, you were then going to get also just subliminal, not subliminal, but quick, like flashback sequence to them as a past, them fucking basically. But when it comes to editing, I just thought, you know what? We shot such a good scene. And it was quite a lengthy scene, as you can see, that I didn't want to just throw it away. And I also thought, you know what? As it is structured at the moment, there's not one scene where Mitchell was happy, smiling, happy.
He doesn't have a break.
So I thought, let's take the sex scene in its entirety, make it that 4-minute sequence. It's his only time of happiness in the whole movie. And then he's dead on the slab, and you're seeing it all through. So and I think it worked. I think it worked much better as it is. If I'd started with him with the narrative of him dead on the morgue, that was going to be the original opening. I just thought you needed to see a bit of him to maybe potentially give a shit. I don't know, but I wanted to. He wallowed in so much filth and everything in that movie. Everyone that gets killed is really his fault because he nicks the money and from Hopper and everyone like Smithy getting castrated. Really, okay, he was skimming, but it's just like everyone's downfall was due to him, But I wanted to show he was human. He did have a real life. He is possible of love, and that was that sequence. And
that makes a lot of sense.
And I'd never shot a real, what I call, not classy, because I don't know. I know it's shot well. It is very sort of slick, I think. But I'd only done the one in Sudden Fury, which is quite kind of just organic, and so I remembered, how well the opening sex scene in on the original Basic Instinct was.
I was thinking about that. I thought that might be.
Now, here's the truth. I thought, wow, that worked for Verhoeven. Every shot in that sex scene is the sex scene from Basic Instinct. I thought the camera shots work, the edit, what she does, what he does. She goes down on him, he's on her, she's riding him. Watch Basic Instinct.
Of course, there's somebody in their 40s like me. I'm going to know that film inside out. That was the VHS passed around the school.
Exactly. And like many movies that I say that that have influenced me and burnt into my sort of psyche with movies, that is that is how to shoot a sex scene. That's a
Yeah, and it tells a
masterclass on making a
story.
sex scene. And
It tells a story.
both the actors were very trusting of me. It was because you know they're pretty much naked. It was just Nick, Tina, John, and myself on the set when we shot that. Very trusting of me, but they just did everything. That I did kind of. Only one time I did have some sort of sketches of we're going to do this shot and that shot, and they went off and rehearsed it amongst themselves with themselves, the two of them, so they felt au fait. And when they were happy and comfortable with not having their clothes on with each other, then me and John came in and we shot the scene, and that was it. But yeah. It's very actually it's quite a strong opening to a movie.
Well, yeah, that's the reason I mentioned it. And when you mentioned Basic Instinct, I think what Verhoeven always did was his love scenes always told a story. So the characters were doing certain tells on their personalities as they were doing something. So, oh, is she going to stab him in this moment? Is she holding back? Is he going to do something? There's always this kind of visual language that's going on. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that when you talk about yours, because I was like, oh, that's a really interesting way of starting the film.
Yeah. So you learn from the masters.
Exactly. Why not? Yeah, why not? And yeah, it would make perfect. So another bit of a silly one, really, but if you were to give like a lesson that somebody might learn from one of your films, so I'll give you mine. Mine is always lock the door when you're having a bath. So if there was like just a one glib kind of sentence, like what would you learn from your? So obviously, always lock the door when you're having a bath.
Just don't get involved with the wrong guys. Yeah, don't get involved with the murky underworld, and you'll be all right. Because all my guys, kind of by choice or what, kind of they live in their surrounding people around them are all sort of like not people you'd want to meet on a dark night. So they kind of like halfway bring it on themselves because they're in that world where it either goes right or wrong for you. So just stay clear of that, kids, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask: have you ever found watching, particularly the earlier films, watching them back? Have you ever found any like unintentional humor in there? For example, the bit with the children getting shot, and they've both got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on. That always gets me because it's like there's one and he's blown away, and then the next one comes in almost like a replacement in his own Ninja Turtles. Yeah, the Ninja Turtles always gets me every time.
There's a story behind that, and the story is this: the scene. I love the scene in Once Upon a Time in the West where the McBain family get wiped out by Henry Fonda and his guys, and the kid runs out, and then they see him and. Well, now you've said by name, and and they shoot him. So we took that and we made it, our own for Sudden Fury. So the kid that gets shot at the end with the red hair, that's the son of Peter Dobson, who was the DOP and editor on Sudden Fury. And the guy in the red, the kid in the red Ninja Turtle, that was his son's friend who happened to be there on the day. And they want to be in the movie. We're going to snap your neck. And he's like, you're like, oh, we'll do that. I can't remember how old they are, but I know like Anthony, the guy, the kid with the red hair, the white Ninja Turtle. I mean, he's like in his 30s now. He's got his own kid, married, and all sorts. It's quite weird when you look back at it, but it was just, it was a taboo, right? We've got to kill a kid.
Oh.
We're anti-censorship, so let's kill a kid in Sudden Fury, but we killed two.
It just cracks me. I think as well because it places it in a time and place, like Turtle Mania and all.
Some of it. I mean, going back to your question, I look at some of it, and my toes curl, especially with Sudden Fury. I had to watch it. A couple of weeks ago. It was screened down in Portsmouth, and oh my god, my toes curl at a lot of that. It's just because we're so young and. And it's just plonk someone that you haven't met. There's no acting. Just plonk them there, say this, and then we'll move on and do that. But it bizarrely in its own way, it just came together, and now it's got like this cult status. And people love. There's lots of people that mention the kids in the Ninja Turtles tops online.
Really?
And stuff,
oh no.
Yeah, honestly, people in America and stuff are sort of going about that, and it's just like you say. So yeah, there is humour to it now. There's like more black humour in Sudden Fury than I ever thought there was when we were making it. But like, I just think we were younger. And I'm like 30 years older. I can look back at it as well as seeing the mistakes, which is great in hindsight. With anything you look at, you can always think, "Oh, we've done this and done that."
Yeah,
I just get the joy out of it. Some of it being so bad, it's funny. Some of it standing the test of time. And you know, and I find sometimes, and I don't watch them that often, believe me, but like when I was watching Sudden Fury, literally the other week, I got lost in the fact that it was my movie and I made it. If that makes sense. I was watching it thinking, this action scenes is insane, the amount of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I did that. I'm dead and gone, right? These films are out there, digital domain, they're in books. You know, you can see behind you, that's just some of the releases just for Day of Violence behind me. You know, I've got like almost 50 international releases with them, you know, over the years. And when I'm dead and gone, those movies will still guess. I'm happy for that. I've made my little mark.
It's not to be underestimated. Just getting films made, but like that period of time making that first movie, that is your film school. That is your time with your friends and everybody in it. You can tell me all these stories about them, but also the fact, like you say, those are there forever. And like it is everybody's. Well, people like me, you know, who did, you know, went and did screenwriting at university and then never really did anything with it for a long time. So you went out and did it, and I think that's so like admirable. But also, you've got this audience of people who really enjoy it. You've gone around the world with people coming back and telling you how much they enjoy it. But also, there's nothing quite like it, which is really hard because these days there's so many films, and but there's nothing quite really like your
film. Thank you.
No, that's what you're very welcome, because I think that's something that allows something to have a life, isn't it? Is the fact that no one can go, oh, it's just like that. So we can talk about influences, but we can't really say it's just like that. And
it's really nice for you to say those kind words. Yeah, I mean, it's just nice to feel. I guess over the last few years, as there's been more festivals, popping up, and you get a lot of attendance of independent movies. It's just nice that I feel personally that maybe my films are getting a little bit more interest on home turf now than they ever have before. Before there's always been, releases and and reviews and people that like them. I'm not saying that, but it always feels like they get like a warm welcome abroad than they do here with the releases. Like the Germans would always do lavish media box sets and this version and that version, and then you just get thrown out on DVD here in the UK, and no one would advertise it, no one would know your movie's out there. But luck of the draw with A Day of Violence, when we came out of 101 Films, we got to number 12 in the country in all the supermarkets with A Day of Violence, because it's the luck of the draw of who you go to. And people say sometimes about advice, and my advice would be just get out there, do it. Don't let anyone tell you you're doing it wrong. Do it your way if that's how you want to do it. Don't compromise. You'll get so many put downs that you'll just wish you'd never started. But then some people don't. Some people, it's just luck of the draw. Some people, may come from family background, they got some money, so their first movie can be 100,000. I know people that have done that, so already you're making a big splash. But when you're making micro budget movies, stuff under 50 grand and that, it's just make everything count, make your money go on the screen where you can. Don't be afraid to ask for anything. My philosophy throughout all my career making movies is don't ask, don't get. How did I get a £10.5 million mansion for Beyond Fury and not pay a penny? Well, I drove past it, I stopped, I rung the doorbell, your house is lovely. I'd love to film here. I've got no money. I'm a local film director. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I want a guy to pull up in a car, come down your lovely Dallas-like driveway to your lovely... I don't want to come in yet. They said, yeah, do it for free. And when we got there and they saw the car we had, he said, are you sure you don't want your guy to have a better car? Do you want to use any of the cars that this guy owned? And he had £1.5 million worth of cars. And he said, the only one you can't use is the 1966 Spider that's in the garage, right? You know, it's just like... But so we got that £250,000 F1 McLaren that you see Giovanni getting out on. Got all that and £10.5 million on screen for nothing because I asked. Can I shoot at this warehouse? Can I shoot at this closed down shop? Can I shoot at this building that you're going to knock down? What do you want to do? I want to get in there and film. You don't have to tell them everything. I want to get in there. Don't ask, don't get. They can either say yes or no, and I believe half of what we've managed to get away with in these films with locations and stuff is just, I guess, the brass balls of just asking.
Yeah, that's really admirable, especially when we talk about how it is hard to make a film full stop. But I think particularly in Britain, I think it is set up to be even more difficult. And the ones that are successful, say, for example, a few years ago when Censor was very, very popular, I remember thinking about Censor, the films that they're talking about in Censor, they wouldn't make them and they wouldn't get the amount of, it's almost like a nice retro thing to talk about, but they wouldn't be like none of the people making the film Censor would make those films. And it's like,
they're not these days. People don't make them like that anymore. People are too afraid. I don't know. I'll never change. That is what it's going to be. And if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah. And I would say, even if people don't like, if it's not to their taste, in terms of like a time capsule of filmmaking, if you're looking for box sets, there's so much on this from the book where I've learned loads from the booklet, but then the special features, the behind the scenes with Giovanni, where you're doing the makeup and he's talking about weed and it's so funny, all that great stuff. The postcards and
that making of is longer than the film, right? That making of A Day of Violence is longer.
Well, I sat down the other evening because I thought, well, I've watched all the films and I've watched most of the extras and I hadn't watched that one. And I sat down and it was like 11 o'clock. And I think I ended up going to bed and it was like, after watching that, it was close to like 1 o'clock in the morning by the time I went to bed because I'd watched that.
But it tells you how we made that movie, right? It's how we made that movies and that making of it. That the people you see on set, that was it for that movie. Those locations was that. We shot on a Z1 on day, so it wasn't even 1080p. It was 1080i. It's 1080p now. It's been upgraded and that. But that was a massive jump from Sudden Fury that had been shot on U-matic, which is an old 90s TV broadcast. I mean, it's terrible. Genuinely, I love to talk about the stuff and help people out if I can. Things I've learned. I've only learned things the hard way. I've done nothing through, like I say, film school or anything like that. It's just watching movies, making movies. That didn't work. That worked. Next one, let's get better. More lights, more camera stuff, more this, more that, better acting, bigger locations. Need money. We're ready to go.
The plans for the future are really exciting. I can't wait to see how it goes. And hopefully we'll keep in touch. We'll have you back on the channel. We'll keep messaging and we'll be able to do this again. And it's I would implore people to get hold of the set. It is a really fun ride through your career with lots of things in there that people who really do like their special features are going to love it, even if you're just interested in independent filmmaking. Because the thing about a lot of special features these days is they're an afterthought. This is part of the journey. So I've really enjoyed that side of it. I think as someone who, I love being creative and making things myself.
Yeah, being of that age where, I love special features on DVDs and Blu-rays when they're first hitting.
Same.
That's something I've always wanted to do, have added value. So really, when you come and try and sell your movie, you got the movie and you got this, that, and everything else that kind of, you know, persuade a distributor to take your movie. It's not just the film. I got this, I got that. And it's just sort of something I've done on each movie. It's just like try and shoot. We didn't do as much on Beyond as I hoped to, but there's enough behind the scenes there. But it's just capture it all. Because like you say, it's a capture of time. It's our lives. You can look back on it. It's interesting for other filmmakers, I hope, to look at how we've done it. Say, well, they're doing it. Shit, I'm going to do it better than them. I hope they do. You know, I'm not precious. If you don't, I get my films aren't for everyone, and the people that love it and have come along for the ride, I'm forever grateful. And I just hope it's not too long before I can get another feature out there for everyone, because, you know, I'm not about, as I've got older, to water myself down. If anything else, the fire in my belly is more intense because it's so frustrating that it's so long between each movie. I've got so much I want to do, but time's ticking. Anyone with money listening, time is ticking.
If you need anyone to kill in your next film, I'm more than happy to be murdered.
I would love to have you come down. We'll get you down. So I say come down. You can do an on-set report. We can squib you up. You can get killed by Walker or by whoever, whatever movie you're doing.
Oh, my acting is
down, have a blast with us and be part of that next memory. That'd be great.
Oh man, that'd be lovely. Thank you so much. Sorry, there was one last thing you wanted to say. What was the?
Yeah, I just wanted to say. I've said it, touched on it, but just a huge thank you to everyone that's ever liked, disliked, bought my movies, burnt them, stamped on them, or just watched them, really, because you really are, after all that hard blood, sweat and tears, you know, indie directors were not a millionaires. I still do the day job. But it's just great to know that your films and what you've spent your life doing is reaching people, and people engaging with them, whether it's, you know, even gets them to talk about it in a negative point. You've hit a nerve, right? And I just hope people love the journeys, can excuse the faults, and just really get a 4-pack and a pizza, especially if the fellas, and watch these movies, have fun with it. They're not going to be life changing. It's a Ron Seal moment. What it says on the tin is what you get. And I just hope, and I want to say huge thanks to Treasured Films, Tom Lee Rutter, Graham Lloyd, for sticking their necks out, taking a gamble on, you know, putting my movies out there. And again, guys, I'm so pleased. 2 days, the shop is sold out. More copies have come in. But it's just nice to know that it's in local stores. It's in the HMVs across the country. You can get it in the States as well. But again, thank you. Huge thank you to you, Matt, for reaching out and asking me to come on this podcast. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'd love to do it again any day, mate, any day.
Oh, it's been a blast. Thank you, Darren. Thanks so much.
Gialli, Guns and Gore, available now at Treasured Films.